The James Show Podcast.
It's going to be another beating of a show because the news is so sad. You can tell your host isn't a sociopath because, man, this is, I'm not like losing sleep over this or anything, but the numbers just keep getting worse. This is a flood that started in the overnight hours on wee hours of Friday morning, and the numbers are still going up. Dude, it is Wednesday of the next week, and the numbers are still going up. My heart was broken when I thought it was 24 dead. Now we're at 100 to that, and that's about where we're at now. This is, I don't know. I just do a lot of talk radio. I see a lot of disasters. I haven't seen anything like this. The closest analog now is, what, Hurricane Katrina? What's a deadlier flood that we've had in recent memory that you remember? And it just keeps getting worse. There's still 170 people somewhere around there missing. So this number has a lot of room to maybe even double. This is insane. From a flash flood, I've just never seen this. So if I sound like I'm caught off guard, I am. I am completely caught off guard by this. I like the focus that most of us are having to where let's not make this a political thing. But if someone's going to go in the political arena and try and score points with this, try and get an easy layup, you're not a horrible person if you speak out against it or refute it. There's time to do both. I mean, we're not first responders down there helping anybody. But you're probably discovering a direct link between media hyperbole, if not downright lies, and this small group of really anxious people. They're like chihuahuas. Yeah, I've never had a chihuahua, but every time I've seen someone else's chihuahua, I don't know if it's because they don't know me, but they're shaking. They're like scared. They're like, who's this new guy? And I understand why they're scared. You could pick one up and throw it over the house if you had to. But there's people out there who are just on edge. They're just anxious people. And it's easy to put things in their head that appeals to that anxiety. You know, it's almost like they feel a sense of worth, a sense of purpose being anxious. But check this out. Here's a constant focus here. And some of this montage is from the weekend when, you know, the bodies were still being found, and I guess they're still being found now. But some of these cuts are from Monday and Tuesday of this week. This is the media still trying to somehow attach antipathy toward Trump to all the dead bodies in the Texas flooding. This is a media montage.
Well, even following the Trump administration's cuts to the National Weather Service, is it too early to tell at this point if that had an impact on what happened here?
The president's mega bill, which he just signed into law, makes cuts and even closes some weather research labs.
The Austin San Antonio office is missing a warning coordination meteorologist due to the Trump administration's buyouts.
We're also learning that there were significant staffing shortfalls to the National Weather Service's offices in the region.
There also have been cuts for hundreds of employees at NOAA.
Doge team, as it's called, fired hundreds of employees at the National Weather Service.
Do you have any indication whether those or other cuts helped play a role?
What went wrong here? Did someone miss a forecast? Was it a late forecast? Was it a late warning?
Depletions in the National Weather Service and NOAA may be a cause because of Doge and firings.
It is interesting because those cuts were made, and it does make you wonder if perhaps this is causing any second thoughts.
The biggest cut in the American safety net in history. That is 2,000 days of death like we've seen in Texas this weekend. In my 70 years, I've never been as embarrassed for my country.
Oh, shut up. Now, you and I hear that, and we're like, okay, CNN's lying again. MSNBC's on it. We get it. You hate Trump. You want to just gin up antipathy, if not downright hatred for the man. And I think most of our Team Blue friends hear that, and they're like, look, you know, maybe this is a good chance to make him look bad, but they don't really believe Trump's actions did anything to exacerbate the flood, the flooding, the reaction to it, the response time, the warning system, any of that. If Biden had been president last week, the exact same results would have happened. And, you know, they just move on with their lives. But there's a small percentage of the population. What is it? 5%? Maybe 10% of the people that hear this, and they buy all of it. They swallow it hook, line, and sinker. They just can't be hypnotized hard enough. So when you hear these crazy people This is the natural result of the hyperbole, the media montage I just played you, where they're insisting on tying death and destruction to Donald Trump, wanting to, what, cut social services so he can give money to billionaires or whatever the lie is. This
Seeing a lot of people saying now is not the time to be talking about politics in regard to the flooding. Yes, the did. I know you're mad that I said if you voted for MAGA, you voted for this. But you did. If you voted for Trump, you actively voted for those girls in Texas to die being swept away by that flood. Because your vote for Trump was also a vote to take away the National Weather Service's funding.
That's the net. I don't even fault them that much. The people that are recording their little meltdowns into their phone, their big problem is that they just listen to the wrong media. They believe the lies that the media tells. It's not their fault. It's ultimately the liars in the media that drive the people this crazy. If they listen to WBAP, they wouldn't be foaming at the mouth trying to connect dead children to Donald Trump and spending cuts. The media is a real problem. The media is what's driving these crazy people. The media is what's driving the people so mad that they attacked the Alvarado ICE Detention Center, that they shot up the McAllen ICE Detention Center, that they're the Palestinians are being genocided, so we've got to go shoot 2 Jewish people that are coming out of a museum in D.C., or we've got to flamethrower some elderly Jewish people in Boulder, or we've got to set fire to Tesla dealerships, or we've got to key our neighbor's Tesla. A lot of this, I hope some media members who share that ideology are listening right now. Shame on you. My next guest is the Texas Ag Commissioner, Sid Miller, is back on the James Show. Welcome back. It's been a while. Sorry it's under such terrible circumstances, but good to have you on WBAP, Sid.
Thanks for having us on. We've got a lot of important stuff to talk about today.
All right, so you're the Texas Ag Commissioner. What's your role in the recovery and helping Texans deal with the flooding aftermath?
Well, we're part of the emergency response team. There's about 21 agencies that we work under the Office of Emergency Management. My duties are to come in. We have clean up. We coordinate hay and feed deliveries for the animals, set up shelters for animals, but we also feed people. I'm the one responsible for feeding the people if we have put up shelters. We come in and help get the pine trees off the railroad so we can get the chicken feed delivered. We help locate and bury dead livestock. We've got a lot of responsibility. So what we're doing specifically in this case, first thing I did was activate my STAR fund, that's State of Texas Agriculture Relief Fund. That's money that we raise. It's not taxpayer dollars. It's not government help. It's good individuals donating to that, private entities. And we take that money and put it back into those agriculture communities to help pay for things that government programs or insurance doesn't pay for. Most of it, in this case, will go to buy barbed wire and T-post to replace, hundreds of miles of fencing that have been gone. City people at T-post is what they make the barbed wire fence out of. You just hammer it into the ground, and it's a piece of metal that, I just wanted to explain to it. Yeah. It's a wooden post made shaped like a T. But we'll also use that money to bury the dead animals. That's a biohazard that we've got to get that cleaned up as soon as possible before that comes, a diseased area.
Well, Sid Miller, that's something I haven't heard a lot about the animal situation. We know what the toll is for humans. How much livestock do you think is lost?
Well, we're still in search and recovery mode right now. We're still focusing on the heat aspect of it, but we're, that's going to wind down, in the next couple of days, and we'll start the cleanup. So we don't have any numbers. There's one estimate out there about $18 billion worth of damage. I can tell you this, though, for a fact that there's hundreds of miles of fencing gone, crops are gone or underwater. We've had farm equipment washed out. It's gone. We've had tractors underwater, so they're total. We won't be able to use those. Irrigation equipment looks a bowl of spaghetti, just wadded up. We're finding livestock up and down the flood area, grown cattle on top of trees. That area raises a lot of cattle, sheep, and goats. So they're scattered everywhere. So we've got to get those buried because they're a biohazard. But
right, we're talking with Texas Ag Commissioner Sid Miller. Tell me more about that Star Fund, because this is the type of help that, those of us who say we want smaller government and government should just mind its business and, its constitutional limits at both the state and federal level. And then people say, well, how are we going to help people without government? What happens? What are people going to do if you get rid of FEMA? Or what are people going to do if you cut all these social programs? There are private, voluntary ways that people help other human beings besides government. And I think it's important we highlight a fund like the Star Fund.
Well, and that's what makes me proud to be a Texan. You won't, some other states, not Texas, but you'll see people sitting on the curb waiting for FEMA or the government to come bail them out. Not in Texas. We've got right now we have a second disaster almost. We've got so much help we don't know what to do with it. I mean, we've got people, helping neighbors, friends, people that don't even know anybody down there showing up with backhoes and tractors and dump trucks, wanting to put Texas back together and help their neighbors. So, yeah, Texas, we really don't need the federal government. We've got, even our neighbors, you'll find the Cajun Navy down there already. So we're very self-reliant, very, very resilient. We'll bounce back. If we didn't get one dime from the federal government, we'd still be all right. We'd claw our way out of this.
I want to record this interview and replay it every disaster, because that is music to my ears, Sid Miller. If someone wants to help, how do you recommend they help? Do you need more people to come down there? Do you just need them to donate monetarily to some preferred fund? How would you recommend people listening help?
Right now, we've got plenty of help, almost too much help. But in 10 days to 2 weeks, we'll need help, because it'll all start to dwindle. So the Star Fund, go to texasagriculture.gov. You can donate to that. Hay and Feed Hotline, that's also texasagriculture.gov. And the third thing we're doing, we haven't talked about, and it's probably, I think, the most important one. 3 years ago, I established a hotline for farmers and ranchers to get help, mental help. It's a suicide hotline, but I don't like to use that term.
Wow.
We have a suicide hotline, 988, but they do not know how to talk to farmers. They don't know how to get them help at the USDA or at the Texas Department of Agriculture. They don't know where to send them to get mental health in a rural area, but my hotline does. We do all of that. So I'm going to give you that number in just a second if somebody wants to get a pen and paper and write it down, but you can also find it on that website, texasagriculture.gov. Here's the number, 833-897-2474. Again, 833-897-2474. So, call that number. We've got a friend there that knows, and I'm opening this up, not just to farmers and ranchers, any Texan that needs help, that needs somebody to talk to. You've lost loved ones, that's one thing. But there's people down there that have lost everything, their home, their car, their livelihood. These crops it's too late in the season, can't replant.
Right.
So we're there for you. Call us, and here's what's different about my hotline. You call us today, we're going to help you, and we're going to call you back tomorrow, and we may call you back the next day, and we're going to continue checking on you until we make sure you're okay. And the other lines, they don't do that, but my people care that much.
All right, so if you need the number for the Texas Ag Commissioner's Hotline for Mental Health, 833-897-2474. If you didn't get a chance to write it down now, you can send me an email, a Facebook message. You can find me on Twitter /X or Instagram or whatever. However you reach out to me, I got it typed down. It's in my notes. I'll be happy to get that to anyone who thinks they need it. Texas Ag Commissioner Sid Miller, thanks for your time on the James Show. I appreciate it.
Anytime, my friend. God bless.
All right. Man, sad stuff. The human casualties, the livestock casualties, the loss of crops, the loss of fencing and all your farm equipment. And this is going to take years and years to recover. It keeps getting worse. Death toll continues to climb in the Texas flooding. It's been almost a week and it's still going up. And every tick on that counter is just an extra beating. It was already sad. When it happened on Friday, and I remember the first headlines I saw were, 24 are believed to be dead. That was devastating. Now we're about 100 past that. And this is just a lot. This keeps getting worse every day. But one thing we can do, make sure everyone that survived as well as we can, see if they can be made whole. But the discussion here, we have an opportunity to point out some things. And Sid Miller did a great setup there when he talked about a couple of things. Number one, the STAR Fund. That this is the State of Texas Agriculture Relief Fund. The Texas Department of Agriculture has a fund that's set up that's not funded by you, the taxpayer, by force. It's funded by private voluntary donations, and they disperse funds as needed in the wake of taxpayer money being used. And Sid Miller said between that, all the help that we're getting from the neighbors, all the donations that we're getting, the businesses that are helping and volunteering resources and their time, we actually don't need FEMA. If FEMA didn't exist, we wouldn't tell the difference. We would be just fine without them. And I don't think that could be said loud enough, because that's part of the problem I have with this whole idea that Trump's budget cuts had any effect on this. Look, if you're just joining us, the media was doing its thing.
We've been following the Trump administration's cuts to the National Weather Service. Is it too early to tell at this point if that had an impact on what happened here?
The president's mega bill, which he just signed into law, makes cuts and even closes some weather research labs.
The Austin San Antonio office is missing a warning coordination meteorologist due to the Trump administration's buy.
Look, and my problem with that is they act like if this service isn't provided by government, that it's just not going to be provided at all. Well, if we don't have the National Weather Service, how are we going to know what the weather is? If we don't have the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, how are we going to have radar images? Well, let's imagine we get rid of NOAA or the National Weather Service. You think all the TV stations and radio stations would just quit reporting on weather? Do you think all these airports that have radars and they monitor weather because, they have like millions of dollars on the line and getting these weather predictions correct, you think they would just turn off all their radars? You think platforms like the Weather Channel would just fold up and quit? Or all these other weather services like AccuWeather or whatever the app is on your phone? Or you think that, that's a good one, the iPhone weather app. You think they're just like, well, we're not going to have radars anymore. No, there's a lot of businesses that need weather, and they will provide it. They're already doing it. We don't need an additional layer of whatever the government is doing. And instead of, some other people piggybacking on, well, this is our radar image from the National Weather Service, because we do that some here, we would just use the one from DFW or from Love Field or from the Weather Channel or somewhere else. But if there is a value in predicting the weather, and you and I both know that there is, the private sector, not only will they do it, they'll do it better and cheaper and faster. You know who has the most reliable hurricane prediction meteorologist in America? You're not going to believe this. Waffle House. Did you know that? I only know this because I was on the radio in New Orleans for like 10 years. And so I had to do a whole bunch of hurricane coverage. And it didn't matter if it was on the Gulf Coast, in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, all the way around to both sides of Florida. A lot of the local municipalities, little small cities that don't have giant bureaucracies, they pay attention to the Waffle House meteorologist more so than the guys at the National Weather Service, more so than the guys on TV. They are the most accurate. Now, what does Waffle House care? Why do they need meteorologists so damn bad? Well, because they have a 3-level system for hurricanes and emergencies in Waffle House. Number 1 is green. Everything's fine. You still have your electricity. You still have running water. Everything runs as normal. There's a middle ground. There's like an orange level where you assume you don't have any more utilities coming in. There's no electricity. There's no water. But they have a whole system where they can run the thing off of propane tanks and battery-powered machines, computers to figure out your tab and your taxes, and they can handle the rest of it on paper. Even if there's no electricity, internet, none of that. They have a system by which they can get by just pretty much on propane and batteries. And that's the orange level. And then they have the red level, where if the hurricane's going to be bad enough, the Waffle House will say, this region, that Waffle House, we're just going to close it up. We're going to lock all the doors, board them up if we have to. And even we're not staying open. And they are more accurate than the people on TV and the people in government. Why? Because the people on TV and the people in government have a built-in incentive to make you think that their job is so important. The TV people, they want you to watch. So they're going to tell you it's bad and it's catastrophic. And sometimes they're going to get it wrong. But their incentive is to be more hyperbolic, to give you a lot of false warnings. Because if they scare you, you will watch them. You will watch the Weather Channel. You will watch the news tonight when you get home at 6 o'clock. You will watch it at 10 or whenever the weather comes on at night. But the Waffle House, they don't want to get it wrong. They want to stay open if at all possible because they lose money if they're hyperbolic. They lose money if they jump the gun and tell you to evacuate when it's totally unnecessary. So no, getting rid of FEMA, getting rid of NOAA, getting rid of the National Weather Service, not only could we live without it, we would be better off without it. And the founding fathers weren't just some dumb hacks that forgot to write in disaster relief or charity in the Constitution. It was debated and it was decided by people who are much better statesmen than you and I that charity and disaster recovery was something that was best left to the private sector, maybe the states at the most. But the record of American history is one that until just less than 100 years ago, the federal government never took tax money and applied it to a disaster. Never. That's a new thing. Herbert Hoover first started that. We didn't even have FEMA until Jimmy Carter. So you can't tell me something that existed for all of American history up until Jimmy Carter is something that we can't live without now. Every bad mistake that's made by every previous president, we just have to carry it in our backpack for the rest of our lives? No, we need to start embracing the fact that we don't need FEMA. We don't need the National Weather Service. We don't need NOAA. And I'm not just saying that, to let my libertarian flag fly. It's these people who are saying, well, these budget cuts made people die. No, you could cut their budget 100%. It wouldn't have changed the outcome. In fact, the outcome would probably have been better. Thank you very much. We now have a 12th person that's been indicted in the Alvarado ICE attack. A 12th person. Oh, that's a big one. Because that follows a similar train of thought to what we were discussing earlier in the hour about how the media's hyperbole and their lies and their desperate attempt to connect Trump to catastrophe and dead children and suffering affects some really sick people, affects people who are, they're real susceptible to anxiety. They're probably already anxious, scared little chihuahuas to begin with. And it gets them so worked up that they say awful things into their phone, and they probably truly believe it. They probably don't care that children of MAGA parents died or MAGA people lost their homes or some area that's dominated by MAGA voters is suffering. Because I think some of these people truly believe the media and the fact that, well, these people are supporting Hitler. They, deserve some bad things to happen to them. And that is a terrible result of the hyperbole and lies that it's a steady stream. It's a volcano from the media. But here it is again. You have the ICE detention facilities attacked by people who have been ginned up to hate ICE. Now, Barack Obama deported over 5 million people. Any concern then? Was there any attacks on ICE facilities then? Were ICE agents in such dangers that they had to wear masks? When they talk about why do they have to wear masks? This is why they have to wear masks. Because angry lefties have been ginned up to hate them so much they attack them. This is a safety precaution, not from MAGA hat wearers, but from Team Blue crazies. And not all Team Blue. I don't think I know anybody that's this far down the leftist rabbit hole. Because for probably maybe half, if not a majority of my Team Blue friends, they don't like illegal immigration. They're okay with deporting them. They may have like a little bit of a soft spot, like, well, we just really need to get rid of the criminals first. But I know some, I used to do a show. I used to do my co-host. He was a liberal, but he was against illegal immigration. And he may say, well, we need some farm workers or some migrant worker program or some temporary. But this whole idea where we just have wide open borders, he never stood for that. And so I see a little bit of a divide there. Most of Team Blue isn't that crazy. But the people that are ginned up and doing horrible things in the name of their political ideology, almost all Team Blue. It's almost a 100% phenomenon. Whether it's angry people who are pro-Palestinian, they're upset about the genocide of the Palestinians, big lie there. But it's resulted in murders over here. It's resulted in a guy running through a crowd on Bourbon Street, 2 Jewish Diplomats being shot outside a museum in D.C. The guy in Boulder, Colorado is throwing Molotov cocktails and flamethrowing elderly Jewish people. This has had negative consequences. Your media, your lies, and your hyperbole have had negative consequences. And this is another one. The terrible thing about this ICE shooting in Alvarado is we now have 12 people that were supporting the cause. You know, it's kind of scary when you had that one guy in Minnesota that went and shot up some state reps, but that's just one guy acting alone. Here in this, we have 12 people, and it's one thing to have one crazy person, but there's 11 other people that didn't go, dude, that's crazy. We're not going to go. We're not going to go shoot cops because they're deporting illegal immigrants. No, they found 12 people crazy enough to participate in this thing. That is a huge concern. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. If you're asking me what we do about a hyperbolic media, I'll give you my solutions next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.